You think dead means broke, but the market pays premiums for work everyone abandoned. And today, we rank 20 corpses that out-earn your salary, starting with a job so vile it bills $2,000 before lunch. These are trades the economy declared obsolete, yet they generate $300 to $2,000 net profit per working day because stigma and physical difficulty and licensing keep the field empty. The number one spot involves processing waste that every industrial site produces, but nobody wants to touch, and you will see why. Frozen biological waste at -30 degrees creates instant corporate payments. $1,200 net yesterday for pumping waste in -30-degree wind chill. And that is just the beginning of our list of 20 declared dead businesses that quietly print cash because nobody else will show up. Before we count them down, understand where these numbers come from. Figures derived from franchise disclosure documents and Bureau of Labor Statistics and Trade Association surveys and operator interviews spanning 2023 through 2026. All earnings appear as ranges for people actually doing the work right now. Nothing here is passive income. This is not financial or legal advice. You are watching industries die so you can see exactly when they start paying. The glamorous alternative is digital marketing or e-commerce, where margins compress to 5% within 18 months due to ad cost inflation and zero barriers to entry. A saturated digital niche nets $40 per hour after platform fees, while the dead trades on this list net $400 per hour because nobody new enters. Why does smell pay more than code? That question opens our first block covering ranks 20 through 16, where low-tech meets high stigma and social repulsion acts as a perfect moat against competition. $300 to $400 net per working day. Number 20 is grease trap cleaning for commercial kitchens. A truck with a vacuum pump sucks congealed fat from restaurant floor traps before health inspectors arrive. The customer is a restaurant owner who faces immediate closure if the trap overflows and cannot negotiate price during an emergency. Startup cost is $40,000 for a used vacuum truck, plus $5,000 for disposal permits, with payback in 3 to 5 months. The barrier is disgust. The vivid detail is lifting a lid to reveal 6 inches of solidified bacon grease, while the chef screams about dinner service starting in 20 minutes. Requires a commercial driver's license and local wastewater hauling permit. That ends the grease trap route, but what happens when the barrier shifts from simple revulsion to handling decomposing animals? $400 to $500 net per working day. Number 19 is roadkill and deceased animal removal for municipalities. A flatbed truck collects carcasses from highways and residential streets to prevent disease spread and traffic hazards. The customer is a city sanitation department that legally must clear public rights-of-way and cannot let bodies rot in your homes. Startup cost is $30,000 for a truck and biohazard containment gear, with payback in 4 months. The barrier is disgust plus stigma. The vivid detail is scraping a flattened deer off asphalt in July heat while suburban residents watch from behind curtains. Requires state waste transport authorization and rabies vaccination series. Animals decay fast, but paperwork decays slower, which brings us to how red tape prints money in our next block. $500 to $600 net per working day. Number 18 is backflow prevention testing for municipal water systems. A certified technician attaches gauges to commercial building pipes to verify valves stop contaminated water from flowing backward into drinking supply. The customer is a property manager who faces water shutoff and fines if annual tests lapse. Startup cost is $8,000 for test kits and certification courses, with payback in 2 months. The barrier is licensing. The vivid detail is kneeling in a mechanical room at dawn reading dials while tenants sleep above, unaware their tap water safety depends on your signature. Requires state cross-connection control certification and annual recertification. Bureaucracy creates scarcity, but capital intensity creates fortresses, which is why debt protects your margin in the tier ahead. $600 to $700 net per working day. Number 17 is septic tank pumping for rural properties. A tanker truck extracts raw sewage from underground tanks before it backs up into homes. The customer is a homeowner with no sewer access who faces uninhabitable conditions if the system fails. Startup cost is $90,000 for truck and tank, plus $10,000 for environmental permits, with payback in 6 to 9 months. The barrier is disgust plus capital lockup. The vivid detail is watching brown liquid rise through a hose while calculating whether the tank needs replacement before winter freeze. Requires commercial driver's license with tanker endorsement and state on-site wastewater license. Frozen waste pays premium rates, but what happens when the barrier is not temperature but decades of forgotten mechanical knowledge? $700 to $800 net per working day. Number 16 is crime scene and trauma cleanup. A crew in hazmat suits removes blood and bodily fluids and biohazardous materials after deaths or accidents. The customer is a grieving family or property owner who legally cannot occupy the space until certified clean and emotionally cannot handle the task. Startup cost is $15,000 for chemicals and equipment and training, with payback in 3 months. The barrier is disgust plus stigma plus licensing. The vivid detail is scrubbing dried matter from carpet fibers while maintaining silence out of respect for the dead. Requires state biohazard remediation certification and OSHA bloodborne pathogen training. That closes our low-tech, high-stigma block, but regulatory moats create even wider gaps between demand and supply. $800 to $900 net per working day. Number 15 is elevator repair and maintenance. A mechanic troubleshoots hydraulic systems and electrical controls to keep vertical transport safe and code compliant. The customer is a building owner who faces liability lawsuits and tenant exodus if elevators fail inspection. Startup cost is 5 years apprenticeship plus journeyman licensing, with payback measured in career longevity, not months. The barrier is long skill acquisition plus licensing. The vivid detail is standing atop a car shaft greasing cables, while knowing one mistake means a fall or a lawsuit. An apprentice earns more than a senior software developer in the same zip code because code has no physical consequence. Requires state elevator mechanic license and continuing education hours. Red tape builds walls around profits, but heavy iron builds higher ones. $900 to $1,000 net per working day. Number 14 is industrial boiler inspection and repair. A specialist examines pressure vessels and combustion systems to prevent catastrophic explosions in factories and hospitals. The customer is a facility director who faces production shutdown and insurance cancellation if boilers lack current certification. Startup cost is 6 years training plus national board commission plus specialized tools totaling $50,000, with payback in 1 year. The barrier is danger plus long skill acquisition plus licensing. The vivid detail is crawling inside a hot steel drum checking welds while knowing failure means death or prison. Requires National Board Boiler Inspector Commission and state pressure vessel license. Compliance costs money, but non-compliance costs everything, which leads to assets too expensive for dabblers. $1,000 to $1,200 net per working day. Number 13 is mobile crane operation for heavy lifts. A certified operator maneuvers tons of steel beams or machinery onto precise landing spots at construction sites. The customer is a general contractor whose entire project schedule halts without the crane and who pays hourly regardless of weather delays. Startup cost is $150,000 for crane plus $30,000 for certifications and insurance, with payback in 8 to 12 months. The barrier is capital lockup plus danger plus licensing. The vivid detail is feeling wind sway a 60-ton load while hand signals from a rigger determine whether steel lands safely or crushes a wall. Requires commercial driver's license plus NCCCO crane certification plus site-specific lift plans. Debt filters out the unserious, but aging masters filter out the unteachable. $1,200 to $1,500 net per working day. Number 12 is underground storage tank removal. A crew excavates fuel tanks from former gas stations to prevent groundwater contamination and enable redevelopment. The customer is a property seller or developer who cannot close escrow without environmental clearance and faces EPA fines for leaks. Startup cost is $200,000 for excavation equipment and spill response gear plus licensing, with payback in 10 to 14 months. The barrier is capital lockup plus licensing plus danger. The vivid detail is cutting open a rusted tank smelling of decades-old gasoline while monitoring vapor levels for explosion risk. Requires state underground storage tank contractor license plus 40-hour HAZWOPER certification. Heavy equipment protects margins, but vanishing expertise protects them longer. $1,500 to $1,800 net per working day. Number 11 is legacy mainframe computer maintenance. A technician repairs hardware and updates code for banking and government systems built in 1970 that still process millions of transactions daily. The customer is a chief information officer who cannot migrate critical infrastructure without risking systemic collapse and faces regulatory penalties for downtime. Startup cost is 20 years experience plus rare parts inventory with payback immediate upon finding clients. The barrier is long skill acquisition plus no successors. The vivid detail is debugging punch card error logic, while executives younger than the machine ask why replacement takes so long. Requires vendor-specific certifications discontinued decades ago. What happens when the master quits and takes irreplaceable tacit knowledge to the grave? That explains why forgotten machines pay premium rates, but the pattern beneath all 20 entries matters more than any single trade. Death is a misdiagnosis by outsiders who confuse declining volume with declining profit. In every case on this list, total addressable market shrank, but remaining demand became inelastic and concentrated. The survivors inherited monopoly pricing in micro-markets. This is the resurrection mechanism, and it applies whether you pump waste or debug COBOL. If this analysis changed how you see dying industries, then subscribe for weekly breakdowns of overlooked cash flows. Margins live in the gap between what people need and what people refuse to do, and that gap widens every time someone declares a trade dead. Now we approach the ultimate example where disgust and isolation and licensing and capital lockup converge into one business that references our cold, open promise. $1,500 to $2,000 net per working day. Number 10 is industrial chimney and stack repair. A rigger climbs hundreds of feet to inspect and rebuild brick and steel exhaust stacks at power plants and refineries. The customer is a plant manager who faces emission violations and forced shutdowns if stacks deteriorate beyond compliance. Startup cost is $80,000 for climbing gear and rigging equipment, plus 5 years apprenticeship with payback in 6 months. The barrier is danger, plus long skill acquisition, plus licensing. The vivid detail is hanging from a rope harness at 300 feet replacing bricks, while wind swings your body past live steam lines. Requires state scaffolding and rigging certification, plus fall protection training. Heights pay well, but remote wastelands pay better. $1,800 to $2,000 net per working day. Number 9 is hazardous material abatement for asbestos and lead. A crew in sealed suits strips toxic insulation from buildings during renovation or demolition. The customer is a general contractor who cannot proceed without clearance and faces criminal liability for improper handling. Startup cost is $60,000 for containment equipment and air monitoring, plus licensing, with payback in 4 months. The barrier is danger, plus licensing, plus stigma. The vivid detail is sweating inside a respirator, scraping carcinogenic fibers while negative air machines hum to protect workers outside the plastic barrier. Requires state asbestos abatement contractor license, plus EPA lead renovator certification. Toxins create moats, but geographic voids create castles. $2,000 net per working day. Number 8 is remote generator servicing for mining camps. A diesel mechanic flies to isolated sites to repair backup power systems that keep operations running during grid failures. The customer is a mine operator who loses $100,000 per hour of downtime and cannot wait days for parts delivery. Startup cost is $40,000 for tools and travel gear, plus factory certifications, with payback in 3 months. The barrier is geographic isolation plus long skill acquisition. The vivid detail is troubleshooting fuel injectors in a snowstorm at midnight, knowing the entire camp goes dark if you fail. Requires manufacturer-specific diesel certifications, plus mine safety training. Corporate payment terms accelerate when distance eliminates alternatives. $2,000 net per working day. Number 7 is underwater welding for offshore infrastructure. A diver repairs pipelines and platform legs beneath ocean surfaces in zero visibility conditions. The customer is an oil company that faces environmental disasters and revenue loss if subsea assets fail. Startup cost is $100,000 for dive school and equipment, plus commercial diving certification, with payback in 8 months. The barrier is danger, plus long skill acquisition, plus licensing. The vivid detail is breathing compressed air in darkness, while electric arcs illuminate silt clouds and pressure squeezes your chest. Requires ADCI commercial diver certification, plus AWS underwater welding qualification. Water pressure protects margins, but regulatory capture protects them permanently. Number 1 is portable sanitation servicing for remote industrial sites. $800 to $2,000 net per working day. A truck with a vacuum tank and heated hoses drives to isolated work camps to pump human waste from chemical toilets into sealed containers for transport to treatment plants. The customer is a mining or drilling operation manager who faces regulatory shutdown and productivity loss if sanitation fails and cannot delay payment due to contract penalties. Entry cost is $80,000 for truck and tank, plus $15,000 for hazmat certification and insurance, plus 6 months training with payback in 4 to 7 months. The barrier is disgust plus geographic isolation plus licensing. The vivid detail is scraping frozen solids from tank walls while corporate client wires payment before invoice arrives because rig downtime costs more than your monthly revenue. Requires commercial driver's license with tanker endorsement, plus state wastewater handling permit, plus site-specific safety certification. Source is franchise disclosure document from 2024, plus 3 operator interviews from Alberta and Wyoming. This combines every barrier named today and proves why the corpse breathes deepest in places nobody visits willingly. That ends the ranking, but not the lesson. You watched industries die so you could see exactly when they start paying. The obituary was the signal, and you just watched the profit begin. Margins live in the gap between what people need and what people refuse to do. Next video ranks 10 assets that generate cash flow only because the owner is willing to be bored for decades, titled 10 Boring Assets That Print Cash While You Sleep.